So the last two questions are, you seem to, and I've got way more on the book, but I want to get to this other content. You have two very strong recommendations in the back that I see. One is toward universities, which I'm very interested in here, and that's about the Athenian Circle and what you would like to see there. So,
you know, it's interesting that the term academics and the academy that we use today comes from ancient Greece. It's actually named after a person who ironically betrayed Athens by allowing the enemies of Athens in, by showing them where they needed to go. And that act of betrayal is forgotten. What is not forgotten is
I know who you're talking about. Go ahead.
But that much of what higher education is can trace to a grove in Athens, where great thinkers would meet with their students. And notably, they would form a circle where they would speak. And the notion was that there was safety in that circle, that you could express thoughts that you might not express in the agora or among neighbors. There was a protected environment in which thought could flourish. What I say in the book is that we are facing an existential fight over higher education. I think we're destroying higher education in our society. We have had a purging of faculties. Many faculties no longer have a single Republican or conservative. Most faculties, particularly law schools, have just a handful of people, even though half or more of this country are conservative and Republican. And the result is that higher education has become an echo chamber. It's also become decidedly anti-free speech, where free speech is viewed as harmful. And the result is that most universities run from the left to the far left. And what I suggest in the book is that we cannot sustain higher education like this. We're sawing on the branch we're sitting on. And you see that in surveys that come out. Even in Harvard surveys, where only 8% of the students are conservative, the vast majority of Harvard students are still saying that they feel chilled, that they can't speak their mind. So this type of intolerance, this orthodoxy, even affects those that it benefits. And what I ask in this book is how we can deal with a higher education that is alienating half of the country. Our numbers are falling, our revenue is falling, and I think part of it is, in fact, this sense of intolerance in higher education. You know, I talk about in the book how I went to University of Chicago and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was like walking into the bar scene in Star Wars where everyone seemed exotic. You know, I lived for a long time at a vegetarian cooperative where the book The Jungle was written, and called the Dorchester Cooperative. And down in the basement, the Spartacus League would meet. There were a bunch of Trotskyites. And upstairs we had militant vegans. And next door we had crazy libertarians. And I loved every minute of it. I thought they were all insane, but I loved every minute of it because I couldn't get enough of people that were seeing what I was seeing and seeing something completely different. And it changed me. I'm not sure about my views, but it changed me in terms of understanding other people. It was the most almost magical moment of my life for 4 years. And I look at my students today and I realize they don't have that they are being taught in largely an echo chamber where orthodoxy more than inquiry prevails. And it's almost a sin for what we've done to our students and what we've done to higher education. For all of the proposals that I make to try to regain free speech values, higher education will be the last fight. It will be the hardest silo. Because this has been an objection that is made for years, and my colleagues have not done anything. They won't do anything. They have replicated their views. They like it. Because if you can get rid of conservatives, libertarians, dissenters, you have greater speech opportunities. You have greater advancement of your own work. And they've done that by destroying the sense of the safety of the circle, as I talk about in the book. And I talk about a professor named Mike Adams, who was a conservative in North Carolina. And he had been repeatedly suspended and put under investigation for saying things on social media that were conservative. And there was a sharp difference between radicals on the left, who have said everything from blow up conservatives to killing conservative protesters, who have not faced investigation. But he was repeatedly subject to investigation, and he had to go to court repeatedly, and he fought back those efforts. And then he made a dumb joke on social media, which he immediately apologized for. But again, the investigations began, the suspension. And they went to him, and he finally agreed to a settlement and to leave teaching. And roughly the day before he would no longer be a professor, he went home and he blew his brains out. And for academics, you know in some way why someone would do that. For non-academics, it's sort of harder. Most of us have only wanted to be academics. We've only wanted to be teachers. It's everything we wanted to be. And I think that he was 24 hours away from being someone else, and he couldn't think of it. That's the cost of it. That what this movement does, this cancel culture, is it takes away everything that you value as an intellectual. It takes away publications, it takes away appointments, it even takes away classes. Most of the faculty in this country are contract professors. You can lose your job, and you lose everything you wanted to be. That's the cruelty of it. So this is going to be the hardest of the fights in the book, but it's one we have to win, because this anti-free speech movement began in higher education, and that's where it will end if we're successful.